Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into a massive, globe-spanning mystery presented by ancient astronaut theorists. We are going to be exploring ancient texts, archaeological sites, and deep-rooted myths to piece together a really controversial puzzle, one that spans across entire continents and thousands of years.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty details, we gotta stop and ask ourselves a pretty fundamental question. Why gold? Seriously, why did a shiny, relatively soft metal hold such supreme importance to all these seemingly disconnected ancient cultures all over the world? From South America to Africa to Asia, humanity's earliest civilizations went to incredible, often highly perilous lengths just to acquire it. Was it really just because it looked pretty, or was there a much deeper, perhaps even otherworldly reason for this universal obsession? Section 1. The Alien Gold Rush Theory, and Zecharia Sitchin's controversial translations of Sumerian texts. So, according to the source material, this whole global mystery really begins to take shape back in 1976. That's when an author named Zecharia Sitchin published his own highly unique, and definitely controversial, translations of ancient Sumerian clay tablets. Sitchin looked at the earliest known human civilization and proposed something wild. That their writings weren't just mythology. He claimed they were actually a historical record of our planet's earliest extraterrestrial visitors.
Right at the center of this theory are the Anunnaki. Sitchin suggests that these ancient tablets describe a highly advanced extraterrestrial race that originated from another planet in our solar system, one that's on a massive 3,600-year elliptical orbit. If you were to make a 3D realistic 4K video of this theory, it would look like an epic sci-fi blockbuster, because they didn't just come to Earth to explore. According to the theory, they came out of sheer desperation. Their home planet's atmosphere was depleting, and they desperately needed to mine massive quantities of Earth's gold suspended in their atmosphere and basically save their world.
Section 2. Why aliens need our gold and the actual science behind the shiny metal. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Why would incredibly advanced beings capable of interstellar travel desperately need the exact same shiny metal that we use for necklaces and rings? Well, let's step away from the ancient texts for just a second and look at the actual science.
If we look at the pure physics of it, gold is an absolute top-tier necessity. It's highly malleable, meaning you can easily spin it into microscopic wires or nanoparticles. But even more importantly for space travel, it perfectly reflects infrared light. That makes it an exceptional, ultra-thin heat shield to protect spacecraft from the intense radiation of a star. Plus, it's a top electrical conductor, it's virtually indestructible, and it's non-reactive. It is quite literally the absolute perfect building material for a spacefaring species.
Section 3. Engineering the First Humans and the Controversial Adamu Theory. You see, a planetary-scale mining operation requires a massive labor force. According to the theorists, if the Anunnaki came here to mine, they quickly realized it was back-breaking work. The ancient texts even suggest the alien workers rebelled. They needed a localized workforce to do the heavy lifting.
Theorists point to some really striking linguistic and conceptual parallels between ancient texts to explain exactly where that workforce came from. Take the Sumerian word Adamu, which refers to the first man, specifically engineered as a primitive worker or slave for the Anunnaki. Now compare that to the Hebrew word Adam, simply meaning man. Ancient astronaut theorists argue that these extraterrestrials basically looked at the existing hominids on Earth like Homo erectus, and through artificial mutation and genetic engineering, created humanity to serve as a specialized slave species meant specifically to extract gold.
Let's map this theory out on a timeline, because we are talking about a cosmic scale that completely upends standard historical narratives. Theorists place the arrival of the Anunnaki and the creation of the Adamu at roughly 450,000 years ago. Then we jump forward to 150,000 years ago, where we see the sudden emergence of ancient gold mines down in South Africa. And, as we'll see in just a minute, the ripple effects of this ancient extraterrestrial presence extend all the way to 1064 AD, with the migrations of the Aztec people.
Section 4. Ancient Mines and Spacemen. Investigating global footprints from Africa to Colombia. Because hey, if an alien gold rush actually happened on Earth, we shouldn't just have to rely on translated tablets, right? We should be able to see physical evidence of it across the globe. So let's start by checking out the footprints left behind on the African continent, and then trace this whole operation over to South America.
150,000. That is the estimated age in years of ancient gold excavations discovered in South Africa. Scientists are completely baffled by human mining operations being this incredibly old.
But fascinatingly, local Zulu legends actually have an explanation. They speak of a time when visitors from the stars came down to excavate gold using artificially produced flesh and blood slaves to do the work. The local oral traditions perfectly match Sitchin's translations of the Sumerian tablets from thousands of miles away.
And those global connections? They don't stop there. Moving over to Colombia, there is a site called the San Agustin Archaeological Park. It's located in this highly specific geographic spot precisely where three rivers converge, which happens to be a sacred layout mirroring sites over in India. Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that early Hindu explorers were guided to this exact gold-rich location using vimanas. Ancient Hindu texts describe these as highly advanced extraterrestrial flying machines used to conduct aerial surveys of the Earth's minerals.
The source material points to this incredibly specific carving found in Colombia as visual proof. Theorists literally refer to it as a spaceman, and looking at it, it's pretty easy to see why. The figure clearly appears to be wearing a helmet and a visor. It's got rectangular eyes, no nose, and most importantly, it's clutching this massive cylinder that goes straight down into the ground beneath its feet. Researchers call this a ground-penetrating power staff, used to detect or extract minerals.
Now, when you compare the Colombian spaceman's ground-penetrating power staff to ancient Hindu lore, a startling parallel emerges. The Hindu god of gold, Swarnakala Bhairava, is said to use a kila, which is a nearly identical cylinder driven into the earth to mine gold. The visual and functional similarities across two completely isolated ancient cultures are used by theorists to suggest this wasn't just a coincidence, but a unified global mining operation directed by extraterrestrials using the exact same high-tech equipment.
Section 5. Lost Treasures of the Gods, the Aztec Migration, and a Cosmic Crash Landing. Let's shift our focus north. We are moving from the mountains of Colombia right into the American Southwest, where the Aztec mythology of their ancestral homeland, Aztlan, adds yet another incredibly deep layer to this worldwide extraterrestrial gold hunt.
Check out this highly specific detail from the Aztec creation myth. It states, "A goddess threw a giant flint knife from the heavens, causing the birth of 1,600 gods." Now, if you are a primitive culture trying to describe a massive metallic spacecraft descending from the sky, crash landing into the Earth, and then an entire crew disembarking, a giant flint knife from the heavens is a remarkably apt description. Ancient astronaut theorists interpret this dramatic account not as a myth, but as a primitive eyewitness record of high-tech extraterrestrials arriving on Earth and kick-starting a civilization.
And the leader of these gods was Quetzalcoatl. While standard history views him as a mythic feathered serpent, the ancient texts and carvings describe something else entirely. They depict a large being wearing a helmet, sitting in what looks like a half-open egg or capsule, possessing incredibly advanced knowledge of astronomy. According to the legends, when the Aztec Empire fell in 1520, they didn't just surrender. They gathered tens of thousands of pounds of their sacred gold and carried it 2,000 miles north to Utah. Why? To safeguard it as a tribute for Quetzalcoatl, fully expecting this technologically advanced deity to return. The hunt for that alien tribute is literally still active today. Modern treasure hunters rely on the Peralta stones. These are stone tablets discovered in the 1950s and 80s that feature precise Aztec symbols. Many believe these artifacts are the literal map to Montezuma's hidden gold up in Utah. But theorists offer a pretty dire warning here. If this treasure is actually found, and the ancient gateway to Aztlan is opened, we might not just find gold. We might come face to face with an extraterrestrial secret that was meant to stay buried.
Section 6. The True El Dorado and the Real Origins of the Legendary City of Gold. Finally, let's head back down to Colombia to Lake Guatavita, because this lake is the actual geographical origin point for humanity's single most famous, world-altering gold obsession, the legend of El Dorado.
So, the Spanish conquistadors heard rumors of a city of gold, but what they actually witnessed was the highly specific Muisca sacred ritual. The ruler, known as the Zipa, would be literally coated in sticky resin and pure gold dust. He'd take a royal barge out to the middle of the lake, jump in to wash the gold off, while massive amounts of golden objects were hurled into the water. According to their beliefs, they weren't just throwing their wealth away. They were sacrificing massive quantities of gold to an entity, a god, that they believed lived at the bottom of the lake.
And historical records prove this wasn't just a myth. In 1912, a British engineer attempted to drain Lake Guatavita and recovered exactly $20,000 worth of golden artifacts right out of the mud. It proved that the Muisca legends were completely rooted in historical fact. They really were dumping unbelievable amounts of gold into this lake for someone or something.
Which leaves us with one final profound question to consider based on all this source material.
When you connect the Sumerian texts, the ancient African mines, the Aztec migrations, and the rituals of Colombia, you have to wonder, is our relentless pursuit of wealth just human nature? Or was humanity's universal obsession with gold genetically programmed into us by visitors from the stars, effectively turning us into an entire species of miners working for an ancient extraterrestrial empire? It certainly makes you look at a simple gold ring in a completely different light. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning what you know.